Good evening, everyone, and welcome to this week's episode of Sounds of the Diaspora, Artist to Artist, a conversation with yours truly, Dion Parson. I'm really excited to have our guest tonight, a gentleman I had a couple weeks ago, but we had so many technical issues. We brought him back. He was free tonight. He's an amazing composer, arranger, producer, hand drummer, believe it or not, and extraordinary bassist and educator. Please join me in welcoming to the show Mr. Corcoran Holt.
Hey Dion, how
Hey,
are you,
how's
brother?
it going, man?
I'm good, man. How are you?
I'm good. I'm good. I'm good. Down here in the Virgin Islands, doing my thing. I'm in my office tonight, so hopefully all the technical issues will be cool and we won't lose electricity and all that good stuff. So,
I think we're
how
good.
you,
And I
how
have a
you
lot of
doing?
solar. I'm good, man. I have a lot of solar power over here. I'm in Phoenix, Arizona right now. So
Okay.
at in my office at ASU, teaching out here in Arizona State. So I'm good though, man. I'm
Good.
doing.
Good. So you're
I'm
back in
happy.
school. Everything's all set. The semester's going good.
Semester's smooth. Everything is on point. The students are ready. I'm still off of my high from DC Jazz Festival. So I
Yeah, I want to talk
yeah
about that. I want to talk about. I was
yeah.
checking out some of the clips for Japan. So when was the DC Jazz Festival?
It was this past Labor Day weekend. So
Mhm.
it started I think like the 27th and then it went 27th of August and it went through September 1st. So right there in DC on the wharf, man. It was quite incredible, man. It was nice. I had a residency last year and as well as this year. So
Mm.
I was able to do some cool things, man. Put some cool groups together and just hang out, and the vibe was just right, just what was needed for a lot of things that are going down right now in DC. So
Right, right. Who was you had a great band, man, like an all-star band, and I really enjoyed it. It was a bunch of my heroes and mentors and colleagues that I've worked with as well too. But who were in your band? Who were the members of your band?
all right, so I had two bands. The one band that I put together was the Corcoran Holt Super Group. That was the title of it, but it was a band, like you said, mentors and musicians that I highly respect. So I had Steve Teray on trombone and shells, and you and we played with Steve a number of times together. I
Yeah.
had Sean Jones on trumpet, Billy Harper on tenor saxophone, Jeff Tane Watts on drums, and Maestro George Cables on piano. So that was one of the bands that I had, and then I had my working quintet as well from my generation with Stacy Dillard on tenor saxophone. Ashlyn Parker was playing trumpet. McClinty Hunter on drums and Benito Gonzalez on piano. So it was two different generations
Hmm.
of bands, man. It was great, man. It was great.
That's great, man. Some of world's greatest musicians right there. I enjoyed what I heard, and I could tell that everyone was having a great time. And how did it feel to go back home and present all of that wonderful music for the community?
Man, I needed it. I really needed it. It was a summer. It was a pretty intense summer surrounding family, and just getting prepared for the residency and kind of moving around a little bit. But I really needed it. It was highly inspirational, man. Just to for one to have the opportunity to go back to my hometown and be co-artist of residence with Ron Carter,
Hmm.
who in my personal opinion, of one of my heroes, most recorded bassists in history. To be able to be co-artist of residence with him, but in my hometown,
Hmm.
it was powerful, man. Just the community, my whole community that I came up in was there. So it was just great seeing everybody. Of course, I had my mother was there. So close family friends I hadn't seen, and just to be able to go back home and rep and show people what I've been up to all of these years, and be able to bring generations together at a festival, because I think that's something that's missing sometimes. My generation and generations younger than mine, sometimes we forget the importance of those that came before us. And fortunately enough, I was able when I was very young to be able to have opportunities to play with these older pioneers and these older innovators of the music, that are still here, and some that are now ancestors. So I just, my whole residency was about bringing, representing the generations and giving respect and paying homage to all those that have paved the way. So it was, man, it was incredible, man. Just to make a
That's good.
long story short, it was. I'm inspired for. I say I'm inspired for the rest of the year, just off of what went down that weekend. So it was killing, man. Yeah.
And being a leader is not an easy thing. It's a lot of work, and a lot of times, we kind of fall into that role by just association or different things. But going back home, as bringing your music, but having your heroes and your mentors and perform with you as a leader says a lot. It validates you as who you are. The community sees you on a whole nother level, and the fact that all of these musicians that you admire and respect have agreed to do it and then come and perform it, it puts you in a whole nother level as well.
Yeah, 100%. I kept running into people. I had some amazing conversations, with different artists, different PR folks, but just all the musicians that were even there. Like Branford Marcellus was there at the festival. He was hanging and just all different types of cats. And and I was speaking to people that I've known for quite some time. And they were like, Cork, this is, you may not realize it because you're doing this, you're moving. And I'm that type of person. I get busy and I'm just like into what I'm doing, and I don't really take a moment to think about it. But they were like, man, you've been doing this for a while, man, and you left home a long time ago. I left DC in the early 2000s, and just to be able to go back, like you said, and bring the musicians that I've been working with all of these years and present them and lead a band, and being able to do that, and be able to do that on a high level, man. It was something that I was very proud of, but the community, was really proud of me in that regard too, man. So it's, yeah, it definitely it showed a different level and a different light. And I was just glad to be able to showcase the things that I've been doing, in my hometown.
Yeah, that's beautiful. That's beautiful. For the audience listening, you can go on YouTube to the DC Jazz Festival this year, 2025, and check out Corcoran Holt. The group the two groups he has is his working group and the super group. Check out some of the recorders. There's some great stuff up there. I've been checking it out for the past week, and it's really inspiring.
Thank you, bro. Appreciate it.
Yeah. So you're back in Arizona, teaching. You out there at Arizona State. You're out there with our good friend, one of my heroes, Lewis Nash. So the semester's off to a good start, right?
It is. It's off to a good start. This is just going into my third year now.
Check you out, man.
I know. I know, man. Tell me about it. That's what I'm saying.
We just spend so much time on the road, man. It's like when you get to a point in your life where you like start to seeing cats in positions like, wow, man, check that out. Okay.
I know. It's something, man. And it's an adjustment, Dion, like being on the road full time for
it's a beautiful thing. It's work, but it's a beautiful thing because you don't have to think about anything but being on the road.
Right. Yeah. Right. And now it's like I'm thinking about presenting giving this information, getting this information to my students, but also remaining inspired myself, taking care, being able to take care of my family, but also just being able to, I'm teaching in a way, a practical way, I'm really working to get my students prepared for when they get out of here, and have them working while they're here, and have them really tap into the music in the way that I did. Of course, I went to school, I have my degrees, but I also learned how to play from playing, I remember the first time we played together. That itself was a lesson behind Steve, Steve being up front, getting that time, you being next to me, you're like, hey man, lock in. These are, this is the way that I teach my students. I teach my
Yeah.
students from that way, because it's important, man. But it really is something else, man. And sometimes I get into this thought process from like, man, I miss being on the road all the time, because that had been my life, but now it's like I'm able to, I'm able to go out and be on the road, but I have something, I come back and I can give that information
Right.
to the next generation, which is
It's a different level of sharing and
yeah,
presenting also, because
yeah,
one of the good things that I like, what you just said and we've talked about is like you're teaching from experience. Because even when I remember when we first met, you was finishing up your master's.
that's right,
You were
that's
still in
right.
school finishing up your master.
Hmm.
I knew of you
Queens,
before,
yeah.
but that was the first time we played. So
Hmm.
even though you were a student, you were on the road, like you said, with Steve Teray and all the cats. I mean, we were doing tours. Back then, you could
Yeah,
go on the road for a couple of weeks and hit on a regular.
yeah,
And so you are actually presenting that to your students like, hey, this is the level you should be on. Even though you're sitting in a classroom,
yeah.
that's just the environment we're in, but this is where you need to be.
Exactly. And this is the way that y'all have to think,
Right.
when you get out of here. We're learning what we're learning, but how are you going to put this to use,
Right.
once we get out of here? And the other thing I was going to say, man, I realized this in my residency from teaching and from, building the scene out here with Lewis Nash. And, I'm always in front of the microphone. I'm leading sessions. I'm giving presentations. That made DC Jazz Festival. I was able to just fall right in.
Hmm.
I had interview after interview, and then I had to interview people. I think I interviewed Emmett Cohen for
Hmm.
Meet the Artist. So it was like my I've learned so much from doing this that I'm able to bring those worlds together. So
Hmm.
I'm just, I'm learning a lot every day from teaching, and I'm learning every day from playing. So I'm tired, but I'm thankful, man.
It's a different kind of tired also because you have to, you
Yeah.
have to think differently. But I'm happy to hear that you're leading sessions. So you're still playing. You may not be
Oh,
in Europe or Japan and doing those things, but you're still playing,
yeah.
you're still performing, you're still engaging with the audience. And
All
that's a
the
whole
time.
other skill set.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a whole
All the
nother.
time.
That's great, man. I'm happy for you, man, because I know we've had some conversations over the years.
Yeah, we have, man. Like a lot of
A
conversations.
lot of life conversations. It's funny, man, how life plays into what we do. A lot of times when you're younger, you're trying to figure out your craft. You're trying to figure out how do I get better? How do I get gigs? And then as you get older and these things, your profession is coming together, then you start trying to figure out life, the family and
Hey,
sustainability and all of
exactly.
those things. And
Yep.
like I said, man, I'm really happy for you. It's so
I
good to see
appreciate
you
you,
and
man.
have you on the show. You have no idea.
Thanks, man. Thanks for having me, man. Really, it's good to see
Yeah.
you too, man. Really, really,
Yeah.
my man. Yes,
So
yes,
I
it
know
is.
you've done a number of projects, and we've talked about that in the
Hmm.
past. Um, but you just finished up a project. I know you were in New York recording this summer. We missed each other,
Right.
but you've just finished up a project and you shared that with us. We're gonna get to that in a minute. But
Hmm.
being a band leader, your
Hmm.
inspiration and when you're writing and composing, where does that inspiration come from? And then the cast that you're playing with, that's a part of it. How do you pick the folks that you play with? How what's your process, your thought process for
Well,
that?
my thought process, as far as for writing, composing. Um, I'm not the type of guy where I just sit down and I force myself to write. It comes to me. I'll let's say I'm walking, I'll hear a melody, or I'll get a feeling. I'll get a feeling. These days, you can record. So I might
Right,
get like a
right.
melody. I might sing that melody, or I'll get exactly,
Yeah.
or I have a bass line that pop in my head. I'm practicing. I'm shedding or something like that, and the bass line will come to me, and then that bass line, I remember that, and that becomes internally a part of me, and then I'm able to
Hmm.
put that melody over top of that line. Sometimes that works, and a lot of times, I sit with it. But anytime I write a song, it is about a certain aspect of my life or something that has happened in my life. And that could be a good thing, and then that could be a challenging thing, because some people, Jeremy, for example, Pelt, he'll put out 5 records in a year. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's like constantly that, like, he just, because he's just how he is. You know, for me, you know, I this new project that I'm going to release in February. It's about the transition from coming out of the pandemic, being out of the pandemic, being in New York, being in a 1-bedroom apartment with my 2-year-old son, then my daughter coming into the world, you know, having 2 children in a 1-bedroom apartment in Brooklyn, leaving that apartment, going back to DC for 18 months, you know, being on the road, you know, still being on the road with Kenny Garrett and doing all these different things, having 2 children, trying to figure out what's next, and then getting that call to become a professor at ASU, you know. So it's capturing all of these different aspects of my life, you know. And as far as musicians are concerned, I learned something from every musician that I play with. You know, for example, Steve Terrain. I've learned how to be organized, or as organized as I could be from Steve. Steve is very organized. When you see Steve's music, his presentation, Dion, you know, this is going to be here, Corcoran, this is going to be here. Let's bring it down here. You know, it's very, very scripted, you know, very organized, you know. Kenny Garrett, how can we get to the spirit? You know, how do we get to the spirit of the music every time we play? You know what I'm saying? That's a part of me. Wyclef, music, connecting with the people, connecting with the audience, treating the cats the right way. You know, Wyclef always treats us the right way. Yeah. You know what I mean? Jimmy Heath, you know, language, but humor, family. You know, putting your family into the music, you know, the bond between him and Tootie, you know, and being able to play with them, you know. So I try to select musicians that I'm close with, that I can connect with. My working band, Stacy Dillard, for example, you know, on the New York scene, Stacy's in demand all over the scene. Me and Stacy, we were roommates together. You know, we're like brothers. We could have a conversation on and off the bandstand. McClinty, that's been my brother for 25 years. Benito, same thing. We could talk about the music, but we could talk on and off the bandstand. It's family. I try to, when I put a band together, when I try to present and bring bands together, curate things, I want to put people together where we can get to the music, we can get to the spirit of the music. It's not silent when we're not playing music. We can have a good time. We can have laughs.
Everybody gets along.
Everybody gets along, because that's important to me, man. You know, I come from West African music. I come from the drum circle. I come from everybody complimenting each other, you know? So it's like putting that super band together that I just put together, DC Jazz Festival. You know, Steve, when I was playing with Steve Terrain early on with you, when we recorded Delicious and Delightful, that album, Billy Harper was on that album.
Right.
So it's like, okay, I love that sound. Steve is so earthy. Billy's so spiritual. Let's bring that together. That's something that I want. Okay, George Cables. Oh man, I love George Cables.
Oh yeah.
Same thing. Tane, you know what I mean? I knew everybody's gonna compliment each other, and then having Sean right there in the middle, you know, Sean is he is respected by the elders. He's also respected by the younger generations. You know, I constantly want to surround myself to answer your question. I like to surround myself with musicians that inspire me, you know, that push me. I push them. We respect each other. We can have a good time. We can be serious. We can get to the music. We can get to the spiritual aspect of the music, but we can talk. We can have a conversation.
Yeah.
We respect each other. That's important, man. That's important in this music for me.
In this day and age too, man, that's something that, you know, I tell it to my student as well, and folks that I engage in, is like, that's a big part of it, because that's part of the music. There's a certain level of respect amongst the musician on the bandstand and off the bandstand as human beings.
right.
and it's portrayed, it's presented in the sound that you share with the audience. So that's great, man. And that's what I heard on the band. I mean, knowing all the musicians, I have a little bit of an insight versus the regular audience, but you could tell there was a lot of love on the stage. And even,
So much.
in my conversations with you, you're so passionate about the things that you do and the things you want to share with the audience and,
Yeah.
get through with your sound and with your students.
Yep.
Because when you took the job out there, I remember we was talking about that, and you was like, "I got to do this a certain way. Have to be a certain way." You're already thinking about
Yeah.
doing it the right way. Some guys just be like, "Yeah, I'm just gonna teach this class," but it's
Yeah.
just it makes a difference when you have a purpose in what you do.
Yeah. Like, how could I give myself? Like, I'm the type of musician where, when I'm playing, it's a blessing for me to be able to connect with that person who's listening. If I could touch that person, I could give my innermost feelings, and they could get that
Hmm.
through my vessel, through the music that I'm giving. That's important. Same with the students. I don't want to BS the audience, and I don't want to BS my students either. You
Hmm.
know what I mean? I
Hmm.
want to give them. I don't know everything. I'm learning all the time, and that's how the music is.
Oh yeah.
Miles Davis said, treat the music, like a child. Like when a child wakes up, they're always finding something new. And that's all right. And it's okay not to know everything, but I try to surround myself with people, where I can get something from them, and we can have that exchange, man.
I
And
have an interesting question for you. I mean, I'm just
hmm
gonna throw this out there. So, like,
hmm
out of all of the musical genres you could have pursued because you came up in the hip hop world, R&B, all of that stuff you checked out. Why was jazz, jazz was like a calling? Why did you gravitate so much towards jazz?
I gravitated towards jazz because originally, Dion, I just wanted to be a gym. I wanted to play djembe. I
Hmm.
wanted to play West African music, and I started playing bass when I was 10, and I was playing classical music, and I went to Duke Ellington School of Arts, and I got to hear Reggie Workman play. Now
Hmm.
Reggie Workman took a solo on the bass, and I had never really heard a solo like that.
One of them train solos.
Yeah, man. I mean, it was crazy, man. Whenever I see him, I try to tell him this story. He can't really remember it, but it was at Lincoln Theater in DC. I was about 14, 13, 14. He took that open solo, and he started doing strumming with his hand, and he was just boom, and it was almost like that spiritual energy of putting that through the bass and touching the audience. And after I saw that, I was like, oh wow, okay. I could play the bass, I could play this music, because this music is all about being in the moment. It's all about reacting to the musicians that you're playing with. It's all about telling a story.
Hmm.
It's all about supporting somebody else telling their story at the same time. It's just all of these qualities. So I was drawn to it because it felt like the drum circle to me.
Right.
Somebody's leading. You had that lead djembe player. That's the soloist.
Hmm.
You know, um, we're playing an accompaniment. We're playing accompaniment. We're that's we're,
Right.
we're
Yeah.
supporting. We're supporting what's going on, so that we can lift that other person up. Then we have our opportunity. So I was just very drawn to this music because of that. I mean, my dad, my father put me into it. My great grandfather was a bass player. Lived next door to John Coltrane in North Carolina, so it kind of made sense. And we share a birthday, my great grandfather and myself. So my
Okay.
father, he was like, yeah, let's play bass. Bass holds the time in all genres of music. But for jazz, back to your question, for jazz in particular, it's spontaneous, man. Spontaneous improvisation, man. Me being able to, if I'm upset, I remember when this girl broke my heart. This girl broke my heart in DC, and I went back to New York. I did a gig. I think it was in Midtown somewhere, some Jewel bar or something like that.
Hmm.
They said, "What do you want to play?" They said, "Corcoran, what do you want to play?" I said, "Let me play Everything Happens to Me." I played Everything Happens to Me, and the whole room just went silent after. And the guitar player said, "Corky, damn man, you all right, man? You good?" I said, man, Shorty broke my heart, man. And he said, damn, man, you played the hell out of that ballad. I've never heard you play a ballad like that before.
Yeah.
So this music, I love this music so much because I'm able to put myself into it, because I'm a person of expression, and I care about bringing that to others, man. And I could change somebody's day, man. I mean, you could do that as an R&B musician or gospel, you know what I mean? But jazz captures all of that.
Yeah.
All of that from all these different genres that I love, and I could display that in this music. So that's why I love it, man.
That's touching, man. I appreciate you sharing that, because a lot of musicians have their different reasons for doing it, but it's when you feel it's a calling, it's something that you
yeah.
Beautiful, man, beautiful. Well, you shared some music with us, and I want to jump into some of that right now, because your audience, I want our audience to hear your penmanship, the stuff you write. And jazz is really interesting because you could write a melody and you could write a bass line, but as you mentioned, the personnel that you surround yourself with will bring the energy and the spirit of the magic to the music. And I want them to hear what you've created with your sound. So let's jump into this first song. Tell us about this song. It's called 14th Street Bounce. What's the story behind that song?
All right, so it's a dedication to Washington, D.C. I grew up on 14th Street in D.C., which was 14th Street, man. When I was coming up, 14th and U, we had about 5 to 7, maybe 7 jazz clubs on that one street. We would bounce back and forth on. And so that's Bohemian Caverns, Cafe Nima, Twins Jazz, Utopia, JoJo's, Republic Gardens across the street. Man, a couple other ones. A lot of them, unfortunately, are gone now. But we would bounce back and forth to these clubs, and I would take the bus every day from my mother's house on Uptown on 14th Street, where the original Twins was, and I would take it every day. And there's all these different cultures of people, just from Latino to African, Ethiopian, Black folks, white folks, whatever, just a melting pot, right? And so it's in dedication to that. So it has that groove, and came about with a good friend of mine, Brian Settles, who's a tenor saxophone player in DC. And we would play trio, and it was just something we would just hit this tune, man, on 14th Street all the time. And then it's kind of low key, kind of like a DC standard now. Like a lot of people are playing it now, and so. That's 14th Street Bounce, man.
Sounds good. Let's check it out, man. 14th Street Bounce by Corcoran Holt. All right, 14th Street Bounce.
All right, man.
So it's a nice groove, man. I like
Thank
that.
you. Thanks, man. Appreciate it.
I
Thank
like
you,
that. I like that.
man.
You can see bouncing from, spot to spot doing your thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. Who's on that recording?
So that's Stacy Dillard on tenor, saxophone, Josh Evans on trumpet, Benito Gonzalez on piano, and McClinty Hunter on drums.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, we
Great.
record.
That's like your core group, huh?
That's my core group, man. Yeah, like I was saying, man, those are all my brothers. And we just recorded a new one too.
Mhm.
But I have a different drummer on it. Kind of mixed it up a little bit, but
Okay.
on a new one. But yeah, but that's my, like I was saying, Dion, I go so far back with those guys, and we all understand where we're coming from musically,
Mhm.
spiritually. That it's just we're able to just go. We're able to go. We're able to have the tune. I'm like, I know what they're gonna bring to the music.
Mhm.
I know what
Yeah.
they're gonna bring to the music. Sometimes I'll write something and it'll work out. It'll work out perfectly for them because I have them in mind.
Right,
Especially
right.
for the new project that's
And it's
coming up.
locked in, like, we got to come in there so your collective rhythm is tight and locked in. So you guys, you have a
Yeah.
feel of,
Yep.
killer bass solo, bro. Yeah.
Oh, thank you, Teddy.
Yeah. All
Appreciate
right.
that. Thanks,
Nice
everybody.
small tumble. Love the collective interplay. Okay.
Thank you, guys. Thank you.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's that sound, is that New York energy as well, too, So
Yeah, for sure, for sure. That's yeah, that the Mecca, that project, that entire project. If you guys go and check that whole record out, that's about my journey. It came out a few years back, but that's about my journey from Washington D.C. to New York.
mhm.
The Mecca being New York, the meeting of the place where all the greatest musicians and the greatest everybody in New York is there for a reason. So
Mhm.
I look at it as kind of like the Mecca of what we do. That's where I met you, Dion. So
Yeah.
it's and that's a tribute to that. But that's that New York energy with that DC bounce, though.
I like that. New York
Yeah,
energy with a DC bounce.
yeah, yeah.
That's you, bro. That's who
Yep,
you are.
that's me, man. That's me for sure, for
That's
sure.
great, man. That's great. Well, you shared another song with us, which is another one. I think it's the same band as well, too. It's another groove. Yeah.
Yeah, another groove. So
Okay.
this one, yeah, that one is I wrote this one for Stacy. I wrote this
Mhm.
one for Stacy Dillard, who's playing soprano on this one. Stacy has a tune called Groove that I love, and I always play. Anytime I could be in any club, doesn't matter. Stacy walks in, I start playing this bass line, doom, 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 doom. And it's Stacy's bass line for Groove. You might have played that tune before, Dion. I don't know, but so I said, you know what? So it kind of inspired me to write another song with totally different bass line, totally different melody, but it's called Another Groove, and that's for Stacy, Dillard.
Okay.
Same
Let's check.
band, same
All
band.
right. Let's check it out. Another groove.
Yeah.
Good thing. Yeah,
United
I like that groove.
States, man. I forgot to make mention. I really forgot, man. Richard Padron is playing guitar on that one.
Mhm.
Cuban brother, man. He was in Queens. He lived in Queens. I think he's in Miami. He went back to Miami. And
Mhm.
Rudy
Rudy
Bird playing
Bird. Okay.
percussion. We played together with Kenny Garrett. So yeah, that's an addition to that. Yeah,
Mhm.
guitar and percussion. Yeah.
Thanks for sharing that. Thanks for sharing that. Yeah. So
Okay.
there's something about East Coast jazz that you can feel in its dynamics, improv, structure, and chord progression. Yeah,
Hmm.
definitely.
Yeah, I agree.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a it's energy. It's also energy. I talk about that to my students out here being on the West Coast now for the first time in my life.
Mhm.
It's like, when you're in LA or even here in Arizona, you have palm trees, desert. New York, those cities like New York, Philly, um, DC, Boston, even some of the Midwest, Chicago, but especially let's talk about New York. Like we're rushing to get everywhere, man. We the energy is like, we're constantly like this, and we're constantly like figuring out what's going on. It's the pace is fast.
Mhm.
So like I always talk about to my students, like trying to go into the village. You have a gig at Smalls that starts at 10:30 or something like that. You're pulling up into the village at like 10 o'clock. You're looking for parking. You're going frantic. You're going crazy.
Mhm.
You finally find that parking space. You're running through Smalls. I'm holding my bass up. I hit the stage. Boom! I pull out, and then I have to go. It's the energy, the dynamic. It
Mhm.
is very different. Because New York is fast paced. It's cold. It gets cold in the wintertime. That affects the music. That affects the temperament of what we present. So yeah, it's a definite sound, definite vibe.
Oh yeah, definitely. It's like a sense of urgency all the time.
It's just an urgency.
And that's created too because it's like a abundance of musicians. So if you're not going to do it, somebody else is going to do it. So
Yep, exactly. There's always somebody there
there's always somebody
waiting,
there
man.
waiting
Always
to,
somebody there.
yeah. So that sense of urgency is real, you know.
So many musicians and not enough gigs.
Yeah.
So it's especially the gigs that everybody wants to play. So
Mhm.
that's
And everybody
that's
wants to sit in on your gig.
that's right. That's right, man. Yep.
Yeah, something
So,
unique about and special about New York that you can bring to hundreds of people in the club and still be alone. Yeah, that's true. Yeah,
very true. Very
yeah,
true.
yeah.
I
It's
experienced
a
that.
special place, man. After 30 years in New York, I'm like, yeah, yeah. It definitely grows on you. It brings you, it gives you a different mindset. But if you can live, it's like they say, if you can make it there, you can make it
You can
anywhere.
make it anywhere. That's right. That's right, man. It's the truth. And and you miss it, man. I miss it.
Hmm.
But I get to go back and I realize as soon as I land and I get in
You're
that
right back
Uber,
in it.
I'm like, I never left.
Yeah.
Did I leave? I know exactly. And the Uber driver starts trying to make a goes to go to long.
Doing
I'm
the
like, hold
wrong
on, man. Hold on.
turn.
Turn
Yeah,
around,
yeah,
man.
yeah.
Where you going? Oh, okay, okay.
Yep,
You must have
yep,
spent some
yep.
time here. Yeah, I did. I know the hustle. I know
Hmm.
the hustle in New
It's
York.
beautiful,
So yeah,
beautiful.
it's a beautiful thing.
Yeah, man, I love that, man. I love that. Well, let's move forward with your next composition, and this one is entitled "Raven's Wing."
Okay.
Yeah, let's check this out.
All right.
Yeah, Raven's Wing took off and with a whole nother turn with that Spang-Lang.
Yeah, man, that's. So I always tell the story about that when that's Raven is my wife, Raven Holt. You met Raven,
Mm,
and that's about her personality, man. So it goes different places. So it's like that bass line is starting at ding dong dong ding 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 ding. So you're kind of in that African feel. So that's kind of
mm.
like the morning, right? That's like the morning time, and then like all of a sudden, I don't know, maybe I didn't put the dishes in the dishwasher or something like that. I don't know, something like that, or then all of a sudden, like she just goes off. So that's that triple time trumpet solo. That's her. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, and then that's her like going in on me, and then the up tempo, which is a beautiful thing. It's all a part of life. And then I
mm,
had that open bass solo. And
mm,
that's me communicating back to her,
mm.
talking to her by myself, and then next thing you know, we right back where we started in that
Right.
nice that
Bing.
nice groove, and then we dancing on out, man.
Yeah.
And that's my life with my wife.
It's about
You know,
communication, bro.
that's it. That's it, man. You just never know. You go all kind of places, but you got to be able to know how to bring
Yeah.
things back to the comfortable space.
There you go. I love it. I love it. I love
Yeah,
it,
yeah.
man. I'm smiling
Yes,
because I've enjoyed these conversations. It's beautiful.
art, hey man, art imitates life, man.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah,
Definitely. Definitely. It's a beautiful thing. It is a
yeah,
beautiful thing. That's all I'm gonna say.
yeah,
Yeah, man.
man.
So, yeah, man. Well, let's wrap up with this last song that you shared with us, which is another beautiful one, Zuria. Yeah.
Okay, yeah. That's tune I wrote for my godmother. My she is my godmother. One of my mother's closest friends lost her in 2015. She got ill kind of quickly, but she was her name is Zuri, and Zuri means beautiful flower. So it's an arco slow piece, and it's just something pretty for her. Yeah.
Let's check it out,
All
Zuria.
right.
Yeah, that was Zuria. Beautiful alco piece.
Thank you, man. And I meant not beautiful flower, but beautiful purpose, because Nia means purpose, and
Yeah.
Zuri is beautiful. Yeah, yeah.
Beautiful, soulful, peaceful. Yeah.
Thank you,
Love it.
thank
Love
you.
the range of your compositions. Yeah. Very versatile.
Thanks, man. I appreciate it, bro.
Great stuff like you. Versatile cat.
Hey, man. Hey,
Yeah, man.
man.
So you have a project you're about to release, right? When
Yes,
is that coming out?
that's going to come out February. We're looking at February 20th.
February
Um,
20th? Okay.
yeah, it's
Yeah.
finished. It's mastered, but it's just making sure that it gets in the right hands, so I can get it out to everybody around the
Right.
world.
Okay.
So
Well, if you
yeah,
when you're ready to do a promo, let us know. We'll bring you back on to feature some of the music and
I will, man.
share
Thank you,
share with
brother.
the audience. Yeah, but man, it's that time. But it's always a pleasure hanging out with you and rapping with you, man. It's always so
Likewise,
insightful.
my
That's for
man.
man.
Yeah, man. Let's get together in person soon, man. And man, thank you for having me, man. Really, really means a lot, bro. It's always good to see you, good to talk to you.
Likewise, man. All the best to you and your endeavors out in Arizona.
Thanks,
Give
man.
my best to the man Nash out there,
I
and
will.
lots of love to the family, man. Continue success.
Same.
All right.
Same to you, Dion. All right, brother. Take care,
All right.
brother.
Take
All
care,
right.
man.
All right.
All the best. That's the one and only Corcoran Holt sharing his story and music and just a lot of fun we have with him, man. Sharing all of those wonderful memories as well. It's always a pleasure having him around, having him on the show. So join me next week as we bring another amazing and talented musician to Sounds of the Diaspora, the one and only Mr. Ronnie Ben Hur will be joining us, sharing his music and stories with you. So we look forward to seeing you next week. Take care and God bless. Good night.